Alright, this is just a short video that I'm going to add as a secondary to my previous video. I fleshed out the scroll system already in a way that I didn't when I made the previous video. And I was literally going on the scrolls thing as I was thinking about it as I was going. So I fleshed it out a little further. Magic skill or pre-skill would improve the scroll's power, but so would character level, so that people with less magic skill but high level can still do something fairly reasonable. Scrolls will take 2 action points, so you can save them up to absolutely pound 4 to 5 times, 8 to 10 action points on an enemy, or mass heal, or resurrect people, or buff people, or debuff the enemy, or something like that. And anyone can use them to some effect all game because they scale with character level, and they have a baseline power. But the special class for that spell system can use the quick cast for them, use them to maximum effect. And part of the advantage of a scroll is that it's quick to cast. It's half the attack or spell cast amount, so you can cast 4 to 5 of them instead of 2 or 1 to 2. But they would cost money. They'd be probably about 40% of getting the spell for a character's baseline ability. So they'd be kind of expensive. 40% of getting the spell for the character to cast at will, basically. But they would also not cost magic dust. So you could use it as a separate resource. You could use gold for spell casting power instead of magic dust or something. And I was thinking about it some more, and one way to flesh out the magic system and the priest system is let's say you have you can buy a spell that is beyond your magic skill or priest skill or something like that. There would be a rating system so that spells above your priest or magic skill would cost some of the reagent, or magic dust or piety, like I mentioned before. And spells under it would cost less and less than their baseline until they didn't cost anything. So that's one way I'd do it. And because the most powerful spells would be at the high end and so on, I'd make it so that they cost only a little of the reagent or resource until you boosted that particular magic or priest skill up the next 5 levels with the skills or talents option that I mentioned earlier as a special once every 2 levels kind of thing or something. And but the point is, you could use 5 really cheap single nuke low level spells with high level character with a high magic skill or priest skill or healing spell scroll, for instance, and you could use 4 or 5 of them really cheaply for money wise, and that way you could use scrolls for low level spells instead of casting high mana costing endgame spells. And you could do just as good with the scrolls in terms of potency with low level skills as you could with the high level spells when you cast them yourself 1 or 2 times instead of 4 to 5 times with the spell scroll. And that would enable another option for people and so on. And because it scales with character level, it means anyone can use the scroll tactically and so on, just that the specialized characters with those particular skill points invested for magic and priest spells would be able to hit them a little bit harder and so on. But also, if my spells have bonus effects like armor reduction or dodge reduction, or next hit causes a bleed for 50% damage or something like that, then an otherwise useless in that moment character could use them to make the fighters better at their job. And one of the things about magic is that it tends to scale a little bit too much in terms of its raw potential. So making a spell system that allows fighters to use magic a little bit for the effects, the secondary effects, not the damage or healing raw power, and having it so that a priest can say cast acid, which reduces armor by 30% for the next 2 to 3 turns, as an aside, and cast 2 healing spells on top of it, means that you have a lot of options available for this, and it would flesh it out. And basically, the only balancing act between javelins and scrolls that are kind of overpowered otherwise is that they'd be expensive in gold, in terms of gold or money or something like that. But it would enable a lot of utility and variety and options and so on. And by making the scroll scale with skill, with mage or priest skills and character level, then you keep everyone in the game to some extent, but you clearly give an advantage to the specialized class for using those things. And by making them quick cast, you give an option where you can burn resources quickly to maximize your power in fighting enemies for things and so on. Kind of like using a potion costs 2 things to buff yourself or heal yourself or something like that, instead of a priest casting the spell for 4 action points. So you could do 2 potions or 2 scrolls in the time it takes to cast 1 nuke or 1 heal as a baseline character ability. It would just cost money, basically.